Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to begin with Senate Bill 348.
348. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 348 has to do with the Virginia Lottery. I introduced this bill to make the lottery draw games such as Mega Millions and Powerball more accessible to people who make most of their daily purchases through apps on their phones or tablets. Expanding the breadth of appeal of these lottery games increases the funding available to K through 12 education. My bill provides for Virginia Lottery to control entry of and to regulate any company that seeks to become a digital vendor of lottery drawing games. There is no financial impact to Virginia Lottery as they may set application fees to cover their costs of performing these functions. Many of you have probably heard from current lottery retailers who oppose this bill out of fear that it might reduce their sales of lottery tickets. Retailer sales in Georgia and Michigan increased after these states introduced their own apps for drawing game sales. We should not let unsubstantiated fears reduce our opportunities to increase funding for education. Education funding is the sole reason for the existence of Virginia Lottery in the first place. There are two line amendments, and I would like to ask that these line amendments be reported.
Let me go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first amendment is on line 63 after upon strike registering with and insert approval of their registration by. The second amendment is on line 216 after B, strike the remainder of line 216 through 219 and insert any applicant may sell drawing game tickets over the internet when the department notifies the applicant that its registration has been approved.
Mr. Chairman.
Properly moved and seconded that those amendments be adopted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, these amendments address a concern that was expressed by Virginia Lottery that a digital vendor would begin selling tickets when they file their registration application. With these amendments, sales cannot begin until after the registration has been approved by Virginia Lottery. I have with me David Ogburn and Jeff Allen. They can expand on any comments and answer your questions.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is David Ogburn, representing today lottery.com. Thank you, Senator Locke. I want to focus for a minute on the safeguards that are built into this bill. I'm going to go through them. I'll give you the line numbers if you're interested in following. So digital vendors must, at line 209, have their registration approved by the Virginia Lottery. At 253, they must be bonded in an amount set by the Virginia Lottery. Line 184, they must undergo a background check by Virginia Lottery. Line 370, have a specific trust account for the deposit of ticket proceeds. Line 262, have an independent financial audit performed annually and provide a copy to Virginia Lottery. And line 263, have a system in place to prevent sales to minors or to persons located outside of Virginia, have those systems tested annually, and provide a copy of the test results to Virginia Lottery. The last two testing and auditing requirements are over and above what's required of retailers today. Line 268, Virginia Lottery may suspend, revoke, or refuse to renew a registration pursuant to its rules. Line 268, Virginia Lottery may fine a digital vendor for violating its rules, a power it does not have over retailers. Virginia Lottery appended some comments to the impact statement produced by DPB. I'd like to take just one moment to address the 4 points that were at the end of the impact statement that was released yesterday. The first comment is that the current law says that a retailer can't have its primary purpose for business to sell lottery tickets. That's understandable. We didn't want to create gaming houses. You go, you buy gasoline, you buy Coke, you buy cigarettes. We changed that because Virginia Lottery.com sells tickets through an app. You can't sell Cokes, cigarettes, and gasoline through an app. It's a different entity. That should not apply. The second, it says it would continue to prohibit lottery from selling lottery tickets online. The lottery does sell subscriptions to tickets. It's a minimum of $20 that you have to put in. It's a minimum of 2 weeks or 4 draws. If Virginia Lottery would like to expand their current capability to sell through an app, we would consider that a friendly amendment, and that was not raised when we discussed the bill with Virginia Lottery last week. The other point I'd make there, though, is that why would we take education money and use it to develop an app that already exists by a commercial vendor, a private party, that's already being used in 5 other states and seems to be working very well? Why would we spend potentially millions of dollars that would have otherwise gone to education to develop that in Virginia when it exists and there's literally no charge to use it? Lottery.com would be treated like a retailer.
Okay.
The other comment in here in the impact statement was addressed by the amendment that was just adopted. So a digital vendor would not be able to sell tickets until their registration had been approved. The last point they make is that the proposed legislation may pose a risk that players may lose faith and confidence in the security and integrity of lottery products. There's just simply no evidence of this. The system that Lottery.com uses to sell tickets in 5 states now, other states pending, has not produced any problems. I'm going to defer some more information on that to Jeff Allen from Lottery.com. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Welcome. And thank you. Tell us only what we haven't heard.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Jeff Allen. I'm the Vice President of Strategy at Lottery.com. In March of 2015, Lottery.com was founded with the intent of filling a gap which existed with the current lottery and their way of selling tickets, whereas millennials prefer to use their discretionary spending on things such as fantasy sports, such as social gaming, Candy Crush Saga, and so on, at the detriment of the lottery's revenues and the state's education budget. Due to that, the company was founded with the intent to start selling digital versions of Powerball, Mega Millions, similar multi-state games. To that extent, we launched our service in New Hampshire in July of 2016, and since then have also launched in Texas, Minnesota, North Dakota, and we're currently doing a build-out to launch in Oregon. Since that time, we're proud of the fact that we've received 0 complaints for our service in all of the tickets that we've sold. And we're eager to enter into the Virginia market as well. And with that, we will be establishing a presence here. We will be providing 10 new full-time jobs, starting at $28 an hour with full benefits. To that extent, we also recruit veterans very significantly. Our entire operational force is actually made up of veterans, and we will continue to do that in Virginia. We feel that we can probably bring, in the first year, $25 million in additional revenue to the state through additional lottery ticket sales. And that is a number which we've received a certain amount of skepticism on, and I'm happy to expand on it. Looking at the lottery's own fiscal impact statement, they state that the current subscription services of the Virginia Lottery generate between $8 to $10 million in sales annually, and they do that with a player base of just under 13,000 players. Currently, across all of our active markets, we have 300,000 registered players, and we've done that with actually very, very little marketing. We feel we could probably bring a significant increase in players to the Virginia market, and to capture what is now 8 to 9% we consider increase over current Powerball and Mega Millions sales would not be a substantially difficult achievement. So that $25 million is probably not too far out of line with what we expect reality to bring. That said, there are other states that are moving forward with similar legislation. Currently, New Jersey has already passed a law and has sent out to public comments regulations to adopt a similar lottery-type courier law. Likewise, New York has today just actually released from the governor's office to send for comment an additional set of regulations that are similar. So there's a certain domino effect happening within the industry right now. And we hope that Virginia will also continue to move forward with this type of momentum we're seeing within the industry.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sitting. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be briefer than the boss. My name is Ed Van Petten with Lottery.com. I had previously served in Kansas as a Deputy Attorney General. I've been Executive Director of the Kansas Lottery for 11 years and the Minnesota Lottery for 4 years. I have launched internet initiatives in the past, and I've done very extensive research worldwide with regard to the effect on retail markets. I have found no retail market in the world, and I've in-depth researched Canadian and all North American U.S. lotteries that have launched internet initiatives. I have found no state whatsoever that has had an adverse effect on retail markets. In the state of Michigan, their first year was $120 million in internet sales, an increase at the brick and mortar establishments of 6%. The big fact for state government is this costs you nothing. It costs the state nothing, it costs the lottery nothing, it costs the retailers nothing. Why not give it a try? It makes no sense. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 348? Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike O'Connor, representing Virginia's petroleum marketers and convenience store operators. In looking at the supporting statements that are put out by the lobbyists here, their message is twofold. One is that we're lagging behind the other states, that we're backwards for not going into this, and number two, that we're leaving money on the table. Those are both incorrect. They mention several states. Texas has no lottery.com. Texas has no internet lottery. North Dakota, same thing. Oregon, same thing. Minnesota, which they just mentioned, as the gentleman did, experimented with internet lottery, and their legislature banned it in 2015 completely. Let's talk about New Hampshire, the one place they are operating. First year, there were these draw games, total of $32 million. Lotto.com, their total was 204,491. That's how many tickets they sold, 0.6%. How we're going to get $22 million in Virginia from granted, Virginia's a lot larger than New Hampshire, but New Hampshire is no model. And if it is a model, it's going in the opposite direction. I think the one thing I would also point out, under their system, you can't pick your own numbers. Most Virginia players want to pick their own numbers. They have to pick the ones that are signed by Lotto.com. I would say that one of the estimates that came out certainly doesn't consider the lost jobs, the lost sales, the lost incidental sales from these people who supposedly have such a great desire to go buy lottery tickets on the internet. So for that, we would respectfully ask that you PBI the bill.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Bill Janis here on behalf of the Family Foundation, speaking in opposition to Senate Bill 348. Senator Locke, I think, clearly stated the explicit purpose of the legislation was to expand the breadth and appeal of the Virginia Lottery. The witnesses for Lottery.com have said they want to expand the current player base. They want to increase participation by millennials by offering this new type of gaming for the Virginia Lottery. And the last witness for Lottery.com went so far as to say, this costs the state nothing. It's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you do it? Well, let's look at the costs. The former director of the Virginia Lottery, Paula Otto, wrote a column in the Virginia Pilot on the 13th of March 2016 in which she said, quote, "For some, however, gambling's appeal can become a dangerous addiction, one that goes far beyond a perceived lack of self-control. It's a destructive disease with the power to ruin lives and careers, destroy families, and lead people to bankruptcy, prison, and even suicide." She went on to say, "But for some, gambling grabs hold like a drug, and unlike harmful substances, you can't smell gambling on somebody's breath or test for it in the bloodstream." There are costs involved with the expansion of gaming in the Commonwealth of Virginia by expanding the breadth and appeal of this lottery and to introduce it to a broader player base. And these costs are not just societal costs and not just costs to the state, but they're individual costs and they're the costs of ruined lives. Okay. It's why, for these reasons, in recognition of these costs, that the Virginia Lottery currently has a problem gambling hotline. They produce public service announcements, videos, and brochures, and a web page, www.virginialottery.com, play responsibly, in which they point out and they try to increase understanding and awareness of the potential addiction problem of these games. Virginians can already gamble online. They can already play the Mega Millions and the Powerball online. They can already buy these in most retail merchants. We oppose this because we don't believe that this costs the state nothing. We don't believe it costs individuals in the Commonwealth nothing. And we believe by expanding the breadth and appeal of this game and by expanding the current player base, you're going to expand the pathologies that inherently go along with it. And for these reasons, Family Foundation would ask you to vote against the bill.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chuck Duvall. I'm here on behalf of 7-Eleven and our 700 franchisees across the state. 7-Eleven was there at the beginning of the lottery, and we've worked the entire time to make the lottery grow, and we've been a big partner with the lottery. If you approve this bill today, what you're going to do is you're going to make one vendor real happy and probably one retailer real happy. The rest of the retail community is going to take it in proverbial what. The lottery is not a moneymaker for retailers. We don't make money off the lottery. We make money off the foot traffic. If the people don't come into the store, we don't make that money, i.e. sales tax revenues decrease. We talked about, these people are talking about $27 million going to the education fund. What's going to happen with the sales tax that go down on the other end? The lottery itself is taking steps to bring an app online, but that app will work in cooperation with their retail partners. Now, I know some of you are sitting up there, and I think I've talked about everybody on that dais about this bill. And some of you are saying, well, we live in an age where we do everything on our phones. We do a lot on our phones, but you all have a responsibility to pay attention to your constituents and to your neighbors. And I think your constituents and your neighbors, a lot of whom work in retail establishments, a lot of whom receive the benefits of working in those retail establishments, would tell you this is an ideal that time has not come in Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Eddie Ayla, Virginia Assembly Independent Baptist. I'd like to identify my comments with the Family Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Locke, you want to wrap it up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Lottery.com is operating in Texas, Oregon, New Hampshire, and Minnesota, so those statements were not truthful. This is a great opportunity to expand the customer base here in Virginia. Millennials use apps, and they love to use their phones and apps. Those who use 7-Eleven will continue to use 7-Eleven and go in to buy lottery tickets. And this is not expanding to use scratch-offs or anything like that. This is for Mega Millions and Powerball. And why not capitalize on this new demographic for the benefit of education? And let us not forget that. And that is the purpose. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask that you pass Senate Bill 348.
If the bill passes, it will require that it go to finance. Is there a motion? Senator Evans. Sure.
I don't know if your witnesses all had left yet, or if Ms. Gonzalez is
All
still.
have.
Okay, great. So, sir, you had mentioned that you had programs so it doesn't get to children. And my niece is 11. Or actually, she's 13. She's got an iPhone, and I bought this at 7-Eleven. But I'm wondering, she has a credit card hooked up with it. Her dad, my brother-in-law, lets her buy some apps with it on his card. What would we do? What would you do to see that she doesn't buy tickets on her phone? How could you screen that?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, thank you for the question. We actually have a very robust system of KYC, or Know Your Customers, built within the application. What happens is when you do sign up for the service, the first thing we do is verify your identity. That happens through LexisNexis, a very trusted third party in consumer protection. So that information is sent to them. They send us back a consumer confidence score, which says that you are who you say you are, you're located where you say you are, and that also you're of age to play. Now, that can differ by state. Most of the time it's 18, some states are 21. Once we verified that, we do further geolocationing because, of course, to stay in line with federal regulations, we need to make sure if you're buying a Virginia lottery ticket, you're based in Virginia at the time that you buy it. So that is the position that we've taken on verifying that users are eligible to play in the state where they're playing. And we think that actually goes far beyond the current systems which are in place, for example, kiosks at airports where you can buy lottery tickets. So we've gone far beyond that. And speaking specifically to the area of addiction, we have industry-leading software built in our application to prevent addiction. That looks at how many times you're playing, how much you're spending. There's hard caps put on the limit of tickets you can buy. This is something that can't be done with paper tickets. I mean, you cut me off at one 7-Eleven, I go down the street to the next one and I buy more.
Senator.
Questions. You said that you limit or that you could limit people who are addicted. Is
Yes.
there a limit in these other states?
Yes, there are. So we put a hard cap on each draw of $50 or 25 tickets per drawing. There's no real good reason why, unless you were administering a pool, that someone would need to buy more than 25 tickets per draw. But also, we look at how often you're checking your application. We're not looking at it, but the analytics within the app themselves are analyzing how often are you looking at your app? How often are you checking the numbers? How often are you buying tickets? And at a certain point, it triggers a flag, which then says, you may need to seek help. And so we have partnered with some nonprofits in this area that we can refer people to.
And there's an app for that.
Yes, exactly.
And last question was, you referred to the fact that you can know who someone is. So if you don't have to explain the detail, but if you have confidence that if my niece has her phone paid for by my brother-in-law, even though, and listed as his second phone or whatever,
Right.
that you can tell that it's
Right.
not a 13-year-old.
If you've ever gone online to do something, for example, like check your credit report, where it comes back and it makes you answer a few verification questions, what street were you associated with, what's the last four of your social, these are things that we use to verify, and that's the LexisNexis system.
That completes your questions. All right. Was there a motion?
Move to report.
Properly moved and seconded that the bill be reported and re-referred to finance. Open the rolls. Okay. The bill is not reported.